Donnachadh, it does seem to me that we've been talking the talk on climate change for at least a decade now, but we don't yet seem to be walking the walk and certainly don't seem to be very prepared to handle these weather extremes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alex. It's not just 1 decade, but 3 decades. The United Nations has been meeting globally every year for 30 years to try and bring down carbon emissions. And emissions have gone up every year for 30 years. And we're now seeing the results of that failure, not only in Britain, but across Europe, Asia and America. And it's tragic and heartbreaking. We need to do something. I thought you made a really interesting point there about the handouts on to deal with the fossil fuel crisis and prices. We're going to give people on benefits £1,200 to deal with their bills. It would cost £800 to insulate the roof and the cavity wall of a home. That's how silly and how disastrous our failure over the last 10, 12 years has been when we slashed by around 8 million homes our insulation programme.
And it does strike me as well. I mean, I'm glad you did raise that, because as much as people despise those Insulate Britain protesters, I think it occurs to the majority of people now that keeping yourself warm in winter will save you a lot of cash and also help do something about Putin power. But it does occur to me also that when we're talking about slashing our carbon emissions, we're not really being tough on countries that aren't doing the same, apart from when we have these big global summits wagging our fingers at them. Surely there's more that we could be doing to not essentially export our carbon footprint abroad. Well,
two valid points there. A lot of the United Kingdom's carbon footprint is imported because we exported our production and our manufacturing facilities to countries like China and India. But we have to remember that the United Kingdom is responsible for 15% of global investments in new fossil fuels, which is basically a suicide note to humanity. If the $5 trillion that's proposed to be invested in new fossil fuels was invested into transition, both in the UK, Europe, and in the developing world, we could help crack this problem and actually reduce costs for people. One of the interesting things now about the climate issue is that 12 years ago, I'd have been advocating we must invest extra money, even though it wasn't cost-benefit analysis wasn't brilliant. Now, renewable energy is around a tenth. It's around £50 a mega kilowatt for renewable electricity. It's over £200-300 for gas electricity. So going renewables slashes the cost for consumers now.
The problem is that there are people looking at what's going on geopolitically and will say Russia's building a Mongolian gas pipeline now to China. Those people who really want to see the West in decline are taking the opportunity, pushing climate change to one side, and are taking the opportunity to maximise on the fact that perhaps we look like we're in retreat. How on earth do we balance that out?
Well, those who are actually responding to the cost of living crisis, which is caused by the soaring cost of fossil fuels, are advocating more fossil fuels, which won't bring down the price by a penny. It's absolutely ludicrous. If we want to advance to the new renewable economy that will put Britain at the head of the world, we've got a massive amount of renewable energy capacity in this country, that we could be a leader in this country, a leader in this industrial revolution. Again, Britain could lead it. And for those who are advocating that we should spend billions of pounds on new fracking, new offshore oil, new offshore gas, are spending the money on old energy that we cannot afford to burn.